Oh, hey, you're just in time. I've been playing Supermassive's Man of Medan, and see, I was inspired by one of its mechanics. Throughout the game, you can pull up the pause menu to pull up your character's traits and see them float around their heads, and it got me thinking. They always say the hardest thing to know is yourself, so why not find a way to get my character traits to float above my head too? Maybe I can even learn something about myself, like therapy, but not good. Turns out Supermassive was actually selling that very experience on their website, and because money means nothing to me, I figure, why not give it a try? Oh boy, I can't wait to see what my traits are! Here we go! Do you think they take returns? Well, you know what they say, 3 times is a tradition, and I'm not in the habit of making traditions, so don't expect a silly screensaver. Damn it. Okay, but don't expect a silly screensaver every time, because eventually I am going to run out of ideas that make me laugh. After my detour into my top games of 2024, we're getting back to the log. The backlog, that is. My list of 100 games I've been meaning to get to, and today we're diving headfirst into the Dark Pictures anthology with its first entry, Man of Medan. But first, let's rewind the clock a bit, shall we? Back to 2015, when Until Dawn released for the PS4. Up until this point, Supermassive Games was a team really only known for PlayStation Move games and a Doctor Who game? Oh, There was a bit of an air of hesitation around the game. Hell, it was originally a PS Move exclusive, but with each time we saw it, my interest only grew. They were able to pull celebrities like Hayden Panettiere and Rami Malek, the motion controls took a huge step back, and the few gimmicks they kept seemed really cool. But in the end, would it nail the choose-your-own-adventure horror style that it was clearly aiming for? Mostly yes, but a little of no as well. Look, I loved Until Dawn when I first played it. As someone who was just falling in love with horror media, it was incredible to be able to feel like I was playing through a B-horror movie. But it is a B-horror movie. Not a lot to sink your teeth into here, but I think that was the intention. A lot of the real issues I have, though, boil down to it being a first attempt. Characters are missing from large chunks of the story, even if they weren't killed, because, well, if they did die in that scene, they can't be too important in any others. Megan Jet Martin's character is in like 2 chapters of the game, which is insane. I will not tolerate this Camp Rock erasure. But wouldn't you know it, Until Dawn was a hit. Seemed like only a matter of time until PlayStation bought them and they'd get started on a sequel. PlayStation didn't buy them? The games are going multi-platform. They're working with Bandai Namco now? I mean, that's awesome. It's always great when gamers are able to get their hands on more great games. I guess I just hope that, you know, with the games going multi-platform, they're gonna all run great, right? They're all gonna run great, right? But enough of that for now. Let's put a pin in that for later and instead talk about the reason we're all here. 2019's Man of Medan. Right off the bat, it was very cool to be greeted with some familiar names from the Until Dawn team on this game as well. Larry Fessenden and Graham Resnick returned as writers, and Jason Graves even returned as the composer. These choices help retain a lot of that style and tone that I really dig. It even begins with Oh Death, making Until Dawn feel even more like an unofficial entry into this anthology. The best way to differentiate them, however, is through their unique styles of horror. Gone are the teen slasher days, here to stay is the psychological thriller. Our patented horror story opener here follows soldiers on a very green ship post-World War II, and I mean this ship is green. I hope you enjoy the color green, because pretty much the entire game is color graded this way. Everything looks very green. Of course, as horror cold opens are wont to do, these soldiers are attacked by something otherworldly, leaving the ship entirely abandoned. It's here that we meet the curator, who acts as a narrator of the story, but more so like the Crypt Keeper, and my god, Pip Torrens absolutely tears this role up. He works so well as an agent of controlled chaos cloaked in mystery, and though your overall time with him is short, he leaves a lasting impression throughout. It's that perfect metatextual tone setter that does its job better than ever before. The blueprint was there in Until Dawn, but it never really worked quite this well, even though I'm always a fan of a Peter Stormare performance. And of course, what would a curator of stories be without a story to tell? And this story follows 5 young people on a diving trip from hell. What begins as a routine dive turns into a pirate raid that leads where else but the ghost ship from the beginning. And as for our 5 young folks on this diving trip, there's Brad, the nerdy and cautious one, his brother Alex, the cool one, Alex's girlfriend Julia, the ambitious one, Julia's brother Conrad.
What do you think? Like, $10 cover it? Oh, whoops, my bad. Let's make it 20.
The idiot one, and Fliss, the self-assured, no-nonsense captain of the ship. So yeah, we're absolutely playing into horror tropes here, but that's what makes these games such a joy to experience. Sure, you can play these characters' stories as straight as can be, only choosing the options that you think the character would in that moment, but these more blank slate style characters are also ways for the player to insert themselves into the narrative as a fun way of seeing if you'd survive based on the choices you make. I think the narrowing down of playable characters here absolutely helps most of the problems that arose in the past title. For the most part, our cast is together for the whole story, even if there are opportunities for someone to leave early on. I won't say who, but I will give a hint. It's the person that costs the most money to have in the game. It's Shawn Ashmore's Conrad. But these characters help carry you through the twists and turns of the narrative, which I think is most people's main issue with the game. It wouldn't be a schlocky B-movie without a big narrative twist, and Man of Medan, in my opinion, plays into that trope wonderfully. Now, I won't spoil what that twist is here, but I thought it was a very smart way of subverting the ghost boat horror trope that I hadn't seen done before. A lot of the criticism I've seen is that once you've figured out the twist, it makes the decisions you're presented easier to make. And I'd like to counter that in 2 different ways, if you don't mind. Way number 1. The twist isn't told to the player and characters outright. A lot of it can be put together if you put on the old thinking cap, sure, but the characters themselves aren't going to put the mystery together unless you're taking the time to search for clues within the ship. This is such a fun incentive for the player to explore every nook and cranny that provides a genuine reward for finding those clues. It gives you the tools you need to help the cast avoid being killed, or just killing them if that's what you're into. I don't know. Yeah, everyone survived on my playthrough. I guess I'm just a god gamer like that. Way number 2, and this is a much shorter one, should the idea of an interesting narrative choice be pushed to the wayside just because the revelation of it makes the game easier? This may come down to personal preference, but also, if you're playing these sorts of games for the challenge, what are you doing, buddy? Something that does hinder the experience of Man of Medan, however, is the performance. Remember that pin I put up earlier? We're going to pull that down. We're going to do that now, all right? Let's go. Let's get ready for it. So I played this on the PS5 with the PS5 version of the game. So the most updated version running on the most recent hardware, and things were relatively smooth. For the most part. There were some frame hitches here, some missing subtitles there, and one scene where the game is reading a lot of data and determining the final path for the playthrough was particularly stilted and glitchy, but overall nothing too bad, even if it did take me out of the moment. The PS4 version apparently runs like shit. Okay, maybe shit is too strong of a word, but it doesn't take an extensive internet search to find multiple videos of weird bugs and glitches. None of it seems to be too bad, but when you've seen what I've seen from future installments like 2022's Devil and Me, it's hard not to see the path of poor optimization that the series was headed down. So if you have the option to play it on the current gen of consoles, yeah, just do that instead. And if you do, you'll find a delightfully self-serious horror tale that is refreshingly brief. I feel like that might also be an unpopular opinion, but I think the brevity of the game works in its favor compared to Until Dawn or their later game, The Quarry. Being able to play through the game in a sitting makes it more approachable from a replay standpoint, and these games are made to be replayed. The way even seemingly innocuous choices can spin into different conversations and events taking place is a magic trick that I never get tired of, and Man of Medan has some pretty varied scenarios that can change not only from static this or that choices, but from small decisions that butterfly affect themselves down the line in ways I didn't even think twice about in the moment. I don't think butterfly effect is a verb, but you get the idea. These games are a mainstay within the horror genre for a reason. The stars they're able to get, the exploration of spooky locales, and the unique approach to safely living the experience of a horror movie have endeared this series to gamers and even left such a big impact that we just got a movie adaptation of Until Dawn. Like I said at the beginning of the video, 3 times is a tradition, and at this point, Supermassive has made 7 games in this style, with the 8th, Directive 8020, set to release this year. That's like a super tradition at this point. They've clearly found a lovely niche for themselves that keeps the fans coming back entry after entry. I would say Man of Medan carries on that tradition really well, and I'm excited to see what the other Dark Pictures games have in store for me. What can I say? I'm a sucker for some cheap scares and some choice-based stories. Oh my god, one got out.